Welcome, weary traveler, to a quiet journey across a profound and often somber landscape of human recovery and systemic control, the post-World War II Soviet asylum. Tonight, we drift softly back to the challenging era following a devastating global conflict, to a world where the scars of war were etched not just on bodies, but profoundly on minds. Allow the gentle current of these serene narratives, tales of quiet dedication, hidden struggles, and the enduring echoes of a complex past to carry you, to calm your thoughts, and perhaps to guide you towards a tranquil stillness. Imagine yourself, if you will, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to the year 1947. The setting is a vast, often imposing institution within the rebuilt yet still somber city of Minsk, a psychiatric hospital. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a doctor, one among a dedicated, yet often overwhelmed staff, enduring an existence defined by challenging conditions, profound mental trauma, and a constant, quiet awareness of pervasive state control. The first sensation that might envelop you is the overwhelming weariness and the pervasive chill. You move through crowded wards, filled with the quiet rustle of restless bodies and the subtle murmurs of troubled minds. Your primary duty is treating traumatized veterans, men who carry the unseen wounds of the war, shell shock, profound anxiety, and the haunting echoes of combat. Imagine the quiet intensity of their gazes, the sudden tremors of their hands, the profound burden of their unspoken suffering that permeates the very air. The sounds would be a constant, low symphony of human distress, punctuated by moments of quiet calm or sudden agitation. Even simple physical comforts become a persistent challenge. Your glasses fog as you move from the cold outside air to the slightly warmer, yet still often unheated interior spaces. Imagine the subtle blurring of your vision, the constant need to wipe away the condensation, a small yet persistent distraction in your demanding day. This minor physical discomfort is a quiet mirror to the larger obscurities and difficulties you face. Your daily sustenance, though vital, offers little variety or pleasure. Your diet consists primarily of rye bread, a staple that provides sustenance but little else. Imagine the rough texture, the dense chewiness, the quiet act of consuming a meal designed purely for survival. There would be little of the rich, varied fare of times of plenty, only the quiet understanding that this simple food provides the minimal energy needed to endure another long day and night. But beyond these physical and emotional strains, there is a pervasive and profound psychological dimension that dictates your very existence. Party spies lurk. Imagine the subtle shift in a conversation when a new, unfamiliar face appears, the quiet watchfulness in the eyes of certain colleagues. Every word you utter, every treatment you prescribe, every report you write might be scrutinized, interpreted, or even twisted by the pervasive state security apparatus. The air would feel heavy with unspoken caution, a quiet tension that underlines every interaction. This segment immerses you in the sensory grind of a post-WW Soviet asylum. You hear the creaking cots, a constant, rhythmic sound throughout the crowded wards, indicating movement, restless sleep, or the simple settling of old furniture. The scent of smoky stoves might pervade the air, offering meager warmth in vast, drafty rooms, a subtle reminder of the scarcity of resources and the ever-present cold. And beneath all this, a pervasive, quiet tension, the fear of being denounced for bourgeois treatments. Imagine the quiet dread of having your compassionate approaches, or any deviation from the prescribed party line, deemed ideologically unsound or Western-influenced. This fear was not of patient violence, but of systemic retribution, a quiet shadow that hung over every professional decision, every act of care. To exist in such a state, to navigate daily life within this confined, demanding, and politically charged institution required immense, quiet discipline. It demanded a deep, often unspoken, understanding of both human suffering and political realities, a profound resilience in the face of constant physical discomfort and ideological scrutiny, and a quiet, almost meditative, acceptance of limitations beyond your control. The rhythm of your days would be a constant, subtle negotiation of duty, conscience, and the deep, almost primal connection to the few moments of true healing or shared humanity that sustained your very spirit. From the initial chill and the constant tension of Soviet oversight, let us now gently descend deeper into the demanding, often morally ambiguous, yet profoundly essential relentless toll of post-war care. The dedication of a doctor was often tested not just by the complex mental states of their patients, but by the systemic demands of a state still grappling with the colossal human aftermath of a global conflict. This segment invites you to observe the daily routines, the difficult decisions, and the ever-present anxieties that define the doctor's taxing role. Imagine your day unfolding amidst the profound needs of a traumatized population. One of your quiet, recurring duties might involve the administration of treatments, some of which, by modern standards, would be considered harsh. You might administer shock therapy, a procedure then understood as a powerful, albeit drastic, intervention for severe mental conditions. Imagine the careful handling of equipment, the subtle click of electrical switches, the quiet, tense atmosphere in the treatment room. The sounds would be hushed, precise, emphasizing the gravity of the procedure. These treatments were employed with the quiet hope of alleviating profound suffering, a difficult choice made within the limitations of the era's medical understanding. Beyond direct patient interaction, a significant portion of your time would be consumed by the pervasive demands of the state. You would spend hours meticulously writing reports for the state, detailing patient progress, resource needs, and often the political reliability of both patients and staff. Imagine the rhythmic scratch of your pen on official forms, the quiet, careful phrasing of sentences designed to satisfy unseen scrutinizers. These documents were not merely medical records. They were complex narratives crafted for a system that prioritized ideological conformity as much as, or more than, individual well-being. Within the crowded wards, the challenge of patient management was constant. You would frequently need to dodge patient outbursts, navigating the sudden, unpredictable shifts in a patient's emotional state. Imagine the quiet tension as a veteran, haunted by nightmares, suddenly cries out, or as a previously calm patient becomes agitated. The sounds could vary: a sudden shout, a frustrated moan, the quiet thud of a hand against a wall. Your movements would need to be calm, deliberate, yet swift, responding to these moments with a quiet grace born of experience and necessity, always prioritizing the safety of yourself and others without resorting to undue force. And amidst these demanding duties, the shadow of the war's personal impact lingered. You would be steadily, constantly mourning war losses. Perhaps a brother, a friend, a beloved colleague vanished amidst the conflict, or perished in the devastating siege. The grief would be a quiet, pervasive ache, a profound sense of absence that colored your every thought. The sounds of veterans recounting their harrowing experiences, or the sight of their profound mental anguish, would serve as constant reminders of the losses you personally bore. Yet, even in these moments of duty and personal sorrow, an underlying empathy might lead to acts of quiet compassion. You might discover smuggled letters, perhaps hidden by a patient, or brought in secretly by a visitor, intended for a family member or a loved one outside the asylum walls. Imagine the gentle unfolding of the thin paper, the quiet deciphering of faded handwriting, the profound yearning for connection contained within those illicit words. Your quiet decision to facilitate such a message, though risky, would be a small act of human kindness in a system often devoid of it. But perhaps the most pervasive and morally challenging dread was the dread of labeling shell-shocked soldiers as deviants. The Soviet state often viewed psychiatric conditions stemming from war trauma not as legitimate medical illnesses, but as signs of weakness, political unreliability, or even dissent. Imagine the quiet discomfort, the internal struggle, as you were pressed to pathologize a veteran's genuine suffering as an ideological failing. The silent pressure from party officials, the subtle nuances of official directives, would force you into difficult ethical compromises, knowing that a wrong label could condemn a man to a worse fate. To endure such relentless tolls, to provide care within such a system required immense, quiet fortitude. It demanded a profound psychological resilience, a difficult negotiation of personal ethics with political imperatives, and a chilling acceptance of a demanding, often thankless existence. The gentle click of an electrical switch, the low murmur of bureaucratic demands, and the pervasive, quiet dread of ethical compromise, these are the calming echoes of a profound human struggle, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation on the sheer, quiet endurance of the post-war Soviet asylum doctor. From the relentless toll and ethical compromises faced by Soviet asylum doctors, let us now gently shift our focus to a more personal narrative, one that embodies the quiet strength of conviction and the profound impact of individual conscience. We turn our thoughts to Dr. Sophia Levin, a fictional character, whose story allows us to explore the subtle yet powerful acts of quiet resistance within a rigid and often unforgiving system. This narrative traces her compassion, her courageous defiance, and the quiet consequences of her choices, all told in a calm tone that honors her fight against Soviet rigidity. Imagine Dr. Sophia Levin not merely performing her duties, but approaching each patient with a quiet, inherent empathy. Her movements would be measured, her voice soft, offering a gentle presence in wards often filled with profound distress. Imagine her calm demeanor as she listened to a veteran recount his nightmares, the subtle tension in his voice, or the gentle way she might adjust a pillow for a restless patient, bringing a fleeting moment of comfort. The sounds surrounding her would be the muted creak of beds, the occasional low murmur of troubled sleep, and the quiet, steady rhythm of her own breathing as she attended to those in need. Irina's profound compassion often clashed with brutal orders to mistreat war veterans. The Soviet system, particularly the post-war era, increasingly sought to control narratives and enforce ideological conformity, even in the realm of medicine. Psychiatric diagnoses could be weaponized, and genuine trauma sometimes dismissed as anti-Soviet sentiment. Imagine the subtle tension in the air when a directive arrived, perhaps a terse memo or a firm verbal instruction from an official, demanding treatments or diagnoses that Dr. Levin knew were harmful or politically motivated, rather than therapeutically sound. The sounds might be the sharp thud of a stamped document, the clipped, authoritative tones of a superior, or the quiet, internal sigh of resistance forming within her. It was in these moments of profound ethical conflict that Dr. Levin chose a path of quiet defiance. She began to write secret reports to reformers, perhaps to individuals within the medical community, or even within the party who she believed might share her concerns, or who possessed a more enlightened view of mental health. Imagine the careful, hurried strokes of her fountain pen on paper in the dim light of her study, capturing details of patient suffering, documenting questionable practices, and subtly articulating her dissent. The very act of committing these observations to paper, knowing the immense risk involved, was a profound act of courage. The subtle scratch of the pen, the quiet rustle of the paper, would be the sounds of her conscience at work. However, such acts of defiance, even when undertaken with the quietest discretion, carried severe consequences within a totalitarian system. Imagine the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the cold, knowing gaze of a party official, the formal summons to a superior's office. The whispers among the staff might grow, hushed and cautious. Ultimately, Dr. Levin's quiet resistance led to her demotion. She would be stripped of her senior responsibilities, perhaps reassigned to a more isolated, less influential post, or subjected to increased scrutiny. Her colleagues might subtly avoid her, her access to resources dwindle. Her demotion would be largely silent, a gradual fading of her influence, a solitary figure moving to the periphery, her quiet integrity having proved too inconvenient for the prevailing system. This narrative, though fictional, traces the profound impact of individual conscience within a challenging historical context. It highlights the quiet courage of those who, like Dr. Sophia Levin, dared to uphold ethical standards and advocate for human dignity in a world that often suppressed both. The subtle scratch of a secret report, the quiet dignity of a soul resisting coercion, and the profound, silent presence of her enduring compassion. These are the calming echoes of a courageous spirit, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation on the quiet battles fought for humanity in the shadows of history. From the profound individual courage of a doctor like Sophia Levin, let us now gently shift our focus to another powerful, yet often overlooked, form of expression that emerged from the confines of Soviet asylums, the post-war patient art. These quiet, often deeply personal creations offer a profound glimpse into the inner worlds of those confined, serving as powerful, if subtle, forms of communication and even resistance. This segment invites you on a meditative dive into the silent voices of the confined, exploring the profound narratives hidden within these historical finds. Imagine the quiet desperation of a patient within an asylum ward, lacking the means or permission for direct communication, yet compelled to express an inner landscape of trauma, memory, or silent dissent. The materials might be meager: a scrap of paper, a piece of charcoal from a burnt stick, or a stolen stub of a pencil. This leads us to the quiet question: what do surviving patient drawings from Soviet asylums reveal? The very existence of such art, often created in secret, speaks volumes about the enduring human need for expression. Historical finds of these creations are rare and precious. Imagine the painstaking process of discovering them, perhaps tucked away in a forgotten patient file, slipped behind a loose floorboard in a disused room, or carefully preserved by a compassionate staff member like our fictional Irina or Sophia. The quiet rustle of old brittle paper as a conservator carefully unrolls a long-hidden sketch, or the gentle clack of a faded folder being opened, would accompany such a discovery. Within these collections, you might encounter charcoal sketches, depicting abstract figures twisted by unseen anxieties, or repetitive patterns that speak of an attempt to impose order on a chaotic internal world. Some might show simplified, almost childlike, representations of home, nature, or past loved ones, quiet yearnings for a world lost to them. Imagine the subtle texture of the paper, the faded black of the charcoal, the profound simplicity of the lines that convey complex emotions. Others might contain hidden notes, tiny words scrawled in margins, or symbols that only the patient could truly decipher, perhaps indicating a coded message or a private lament. The meticulousness required to uncover such subtle details, the quiet patience of the researcher, mirrors the quiet endurance of the artists themselves. These artifacts prompt profound theories about their role as cries for help or resistance. Were they simply a therapeutic outlet, a way for distressed minds to process trauma? Or did they function as a silent appeal to the outside world, a desperate message slipped past the watchful eyes of the state? Some scholars theorize that certain abstract or symbolic elements might have been subtle forms of protest, a way to convey dissent against the system without explicit, denounceable words. Imagine the quiet intellectual pursuit of interpreting these enigmatic symbols, searching for the unspoken truths within the lines and shapes. The sounds within the moments of creation would have been hushed, the soft scratch of charcoal on paper, the almost inaudible sigh of concentration, the pervasive, quiet atmosphere of the asylum. These drawings are the silent witnesses to immense personal struggle, to the profound impact of state control, and to the enduring human capacity for creativity even in the bleakest of circumstances. This segment offers a meditative dive into the silent voices of the confined, emphasizing the quiet power of artistic expression to transcend barriers of illness and oppression. The gentle rustle of old paper, the faded lines of a charcoal sketch, and the profound, silent stories whispered by these hidden works. These are the calming echoes of untold human experience, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation on the quiet resilience of the human spirit to communicate its deepest truths. From the profound, quiet expressions of the patient's hidden art, let's gently shift our focus to a different, yet intrinsically linked, world within the Soviet medical hierarchy, the life of a medical inspector. While doctors and nurses navigated the direct challenges of patient care, these individuals operated within the bureaucratic machinery, tasked with ensuring conformity and efficiency across the vast health system. This segment invites you to explore the privileged, yet profoundly constrained and often troubled, existence of the Soviet health elite, from their administrative duties to the quiet pressures of political allegiance. Imagine yourself not amidst the cries and struggles of a hospital ward, but within the ordered, perhaps imposing, quiet of a Moscow office. The air here would feel different, perhaps dry and still, carrying the subtle scent of official paper, polished wood, and the faint institutional aroma of cleaning solution. The sounds would be precise and measured, the soft rustle of documents being sorted, the gentle click of a pen, the low, steady murmur of distant city life, perhaps traffic or muffled conversations, providing a stark contrast to the sounds of the asylum. Your days as a medical inspector would be filled with a different kind of intensity. Your primary role involves oversight and assessment. You would spend hours meticulously auditing hospitals, reviewing patient records, examining inventory, and assessing the political reliability of staff. Imagine poring over stacks of reports, cross-referencing figures, and noting any discrepancies. The subtle thud of official stamps, the careful turning of pages, would be the consistent sounds of your administrative work. This systematic scrutiny wasn't merely about medical standards. It was deeply interwoven with ideological control, ensuring institutions adhered to party directives and resource limitations. Life in a Moscow office often afforded a degree of material comfort unavailable to those on the front lines of care. You might have access to a warm, well-lit workspace. Lunches might be more substantial, perhaps featuring the comforting aroma of borscht, served with fresh, dark bread and a side of pickles. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of a hot meal, a moment of respite in a world driven by directives. These privileges, however, came with their own set of profound pressures. Indeed, despite these comforts, the realities of the system presented constant challenges. Dr. Defiance was a subtle yet persistent threat to your career. Imagine receiving reports of a doctor, perhaps like our fictional Dr. Levin, who is deviating from prescribed treatments, expressing unsanctioned opinions, or demonstrating an overly individualistic approach to patient care. The quiet tension of having to investigate such a matter, of balancing the demand for conformity with the subtle understanding of a dedicated professional's methods, would be a constant concern. A failure to identify and address such defiance could reflect poorly on your own oversight, endangering your standing within the bureaucratic hierarchy. Furthermore, the pervasive reality of patient suffering in the under-resourced and ideologically constrained facilities could also indirectly threaten your career. While you might not witness the suffering directly, the statistical reports on mortality, the documented overcrowding, or the subtle indications of poor outcomes could become liabilities. Imagine the quiet dread of a negative report from a higher authority, or the chilling implication of a failed inspection. The knowledge that such suffering existed, and that its official acknowledgement could lead to difficult questions or accusations of mismanagement, was a persistent, unspoken burden. Your position was a delicate balance of enforcing state policy, managing resources, and navigating the often grim realities of a vast public health system. This segment explores the complex, often politically charged, world of the Soviet medical inspector, a life privileged in its administrative comforts, yet profoundly constrained by bureaucratic rigidity and the subtle threats of career advancement or downfall. From the careful rustle of audited documents and the structured rhythm of office life, to the profound, silent weight of enforcing directives and navigating the unseen currents of official scrutiny, these are the calming echoes of a unique leadership experience, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation on the intricate web of power, policy, and human well-being within a controlled society. From the bureaucratic layers and the administrative pressures faced by medical inspectors, let us now gently turn our thoughts to a more unsettling, yet profoundly significant chapter in the history of Soviet asylums, the intersection of psychiatry and political dissent. As the post-war era progressed, the institutions of mental health care, designed to heal, sometimes became instruments of control, creating what some have quietly called silent prisons. This segment invites you to explore how mental health diagnoses were, at times, weaponized, and the profound, quiet suffering of those wrongfully confined. Imagine a pervasive atmosphere of ideological conformity that extended into every facet of Soviet life, including medicine. In this environment, any deviation from approved thought, any quiet criticism of the state, could be viewed with suspicion. This leads us to the unsettling question: how did mental health diagnoses become a tool to silence dissidents? For some, their opposition to the regime, their quiet advocacy for human rights, or even their simple nonconformity was interpreted not as political defiance, but as a symptom of mental illness. Consider the concept of sluggish schizophrenia, a controversial diagnosis often applied in these contexts. Imagine a pattern of behavior deemed undesirable by the state, a quiet protest, a whispered poem, a refusal to conform, being reinterpreted through a medical lens. The symptoms might include a slow deterioration of personality, social maladaptation, or even reformist delusions. The very idea is chilling in its quiet inversion of reality, healthy minds labeled as sick, not by true clinical observation, but by ideological necessity. The sounds surrounding such a diagnosis would be quiet, formal. The measured tones of a medical board, the soft scratch of a pen signing a commitment order, the gentle click of a locked door sealing a fate. The quiet suffering of those wrongfully confined was profound. Imagine an individual intellectually vibrant and politically aware, suddenly stripped of their freedom, placed among genuinely ill patients, and subjected to treatments designed to cure their dissent. The sounds of the asylum, the wails, the creaking cots, the methodical movements of staff would become the backdrop to a unique form of torture. The systematic attempt to break the spirit, to force conformity through medical means. The experience would be one of pervasive helplessness, a quiet battle against an unseen yet overwhelming force. For the doctors caught within the system, the moral dilemma was immense. Imagine the quiet struggle, the internal conflict between their Hippocratic oath to heal and the explicit directives from higher authorities. Some might have tried to mitigate the harm, to offer what genuine care they could, while others might have succumbed to the pressure, becoming complicit in the system. The pervasive atmosphere of surveillance and the fear of denunciation, which we touched upon earlier, made open defiance exceptionally dangerous, limiting options for even the most compassionate professionals. This segment offers a meditative exploration of a dark chapter in medical history, emphasizing the quiet power of state control and the profound tragedy of those whose minds became prisons, not through illness, but through political decree. The subtle click of a locking mechanism, the chilling concept of a diagnosis used to silence, and the profound, silent suffering of those confined without cause. These are the calming echoes of a pervasive shadow, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation on the quiet perseverance of the human spirit, even under extreme ideological pressure. We've witnessed the profound complexities that define this era, its devastating human scars and its pervasive state control, its dedicated professionals and its tragic misuses of power, its visible structures and its hidden human stories. It is a world both stark and deeply resonant, a testament to the intricate and often contradictory nature of human understanding and compassion within a tightly controlled historical tapestry. Imagine yourself, if you will, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to approximately 1200 BCE. The setting is the heart of the Shang Dynasty, the sprawling royal capital of Yinyang. The air often carries the metallic tang of bronze, mixed with the earthy scent of raw silk, and the subtle aroma of burning incense from nearby altars. The sounds are a constant, low hum of activity, the quiet tread of many feet on packed earth or stone, the distant murmurs of conversation, and the occasional, almost rhythmic clinking of bronze as it is cleaned and polished. You would receive humble portions of millet scraps, perhaps mixed with a few vegetables or thin broth. You are aware of a secret affair involving a concubine, a member of the royal household whose life is entwined with the king's. For those involved in such an affair, and for anyone who inadvertently becomes aware of it, the consequences of discovery can be severe. The Shang court was deeply rooted in ritual and order, and deviations, especially those involving the king's household, were seen as disruptions to the cosmic balance. Perhaps you overhear hushed conversations late at night, or witness fleeting glances exchanged between individuals who should not be so close. The placement of a specific object, the timing of a whispered message, the unexpected presence of someone where they shouldn't be. These are the subtle cues that slowly reveal a forbidden liaison. The air seems to grow heavy with unspoken understanding. This staple grain provides just enough nourishment to sustain your body through the long hours of diligent service, but rarely offers the indulgence of true pleasure. Water, often from a communal well, would be readily available, cool and vital. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a servant within its vast, intricate palace complex. Your life, though humble, is intimately woven into the daily rituals and rigorous demands of this powerful Bronze Age court. And perhaps through no fault of your own, you find yourself subtly, unwillingly caught in the orbit of a concubine's secret affair, a forbidden liaison unfolding in the shadows. The first sensation that might envelop you is the pervasive sensory weight of palace duties. Your hands, in particular, know the texture and weight of these precious metals. You might spend long hours polishing bronze ceremonial vessels, weapons, or decorative objects. Your hands cramp from the repetitive motions, the exertion of bringing a lustrous sheen to the dull surface of ancient metal. The cool, smooth surface of the bronze beneath your palm, the subtle ache in your fingers and wrists, these become a constant, quiet companion, a reminder of your endless labor. Meals, while not luxurious for a servant, are simple and functional. But beneath the rhythm of duty, there is a new, subtle tension. A profound, chilling sensation begins to settle upon you, the dread of exposure. You fear ritual punishment, not necessarily a physical act observed directly, but the quiet knowledge of what could befall those who transgress the strict social and spiritual rules. This fear manifests as a subtle tightening in your chest, a constant awareness of watchful eyes, even unseen ones. The chants of priests from distant temples, invoking ancestors and deities, might seem to carry an added weight, reminding you of the spiritual judgment that could accompany such a breach of conduct. Your movements become even more precise, your silence more profound, as you navigate a palace where secrets, once revealed, could lead to a swift and quiet downfall for all entangled. To exist in such a state, to bear witness to sensitive matters while maintaining your own precarious position, required a profound internal stillness. It demanded a resilience of spirit that allowed one to move through days, months, and even years, within the bronze-lit confines of a world that was both your existence and a potential source of quiet peril. The rhythm of their lives was a constant, internal negotiation between duty, survival, and the ever-present, subtle threat of unseen forces. From the watchful, precarious life of a palace servant, let us now ascend to the very pinnacle of Shang Dynasty power, where a truly remarkable relationship blossomed amidst the grandeur of the royal court. We turn our attention to the compelling story of King Wu Dang and his extraordinary consort, Fu Hao, whose passionate marriage was not only deeply devoted, but also profoundly impactful on the fate of the empire. His reign marked a period of great expansion and prosperity for the Shang, and at the heart of this success was his exceptional relationship with Fu Hao. They were often confined to the inner palace, their influence primarily within the domestic sphere or through ritual. Fu Hao, however, shattered these expectations. What sets her apart is her unprecedented role as a military general. Oracle bone inscriptions detail her performing sacrifices to ancestors and deities, a highly important duty that often fell to the king himself. This suggests her profound spiritual authority and her deep involvement in the religious life of the Shang, further highlighting her unique status. Oracle bone inscriptions, the very records of Shang divination, frequently mention her leading vast armies into battle. While he had many consorts, Fu Hao clearly held a unique and unparalleled position, distinguished by her intelligence, capability, and the king's deep affection. Her presence on the battlefield, a woman leading troops in a male-dominated society, speaks volumes about her strategic prowess, her personal courage, and crucially, King Wu Ding's absolute trust and faith in her abilities. Her campaigns against rival tribes were consistently successful, contributing significantly to the expansion and security of the Shang realm. These military victories were not just triumphs of arms, but also a testament to the powerful synergy between the king and his consort. This narrative of love and power is delivered with a soothing, reflective tone of history unfolding. The era is still approximately 1200 BCE, and King Wu Ding, one of the most powerful and long-reigning monarchs of the Shang Dynasty, sits on the throne at Anyang. Imagine the traditional roles of royal women in this ancient period. Think of the sight of Fu Hao, not in flowing silks of the palace, but perhaps in bronze armor, commanding chariots and warriors. Beyond her military achievements, Fu Hao also played a significant role in state rituals and religious ceremonies. Their devotion to each other is subtly yet powerfully revealed through these same oracle bones. King Wu Ding frequently sought divination about Fu Hao's health, her childbirths, her well-being during military campaigns, and even her dreams. This level of personal concern and frequent inquiry, recorded for posterity, paints a picture of a king who genuinely cherished his consort, a deep affection that transcended mere political alliance. Their bond was a partnership, fueling both military victories and domestic stability. Tragically, Fu Hao's life, though illustrious, appears to have been relatively short. She died before King Wu Ding, and her passing was clearly a profound loss for him. His grief is subtly conveyed through the extraordinary care taken in her burial. Her tomb, discovered largely intact in 1976 at Anyang, is a testament to her immense wealth, status, and the king's enduring love. The legacy of her tomb is one of the most significant archaeological finds of the Shang Dynasty. Unlike other royal tombs that had been looted, Fu Hao's burial chamber yielded an astonishing array of artifacts, over 1,900 items, including vast quantities of ceremonial bronze vessels. jade carvings, and valuable cowrie shells. Most strikingly, it contained a large collection of weapons, reinforcing her identity as a warrior. The sheer volume and richness of these grave goods speak volumes about her unparalleled importance and the profound devotion of King Wu Ding. The story of King Wu Ding and Fu Hao is a poignant reminder that even in the ancient, ritualistic world of the Shang Dynasty, deep personal bonds and passionate partnerships could flourish, influencing the very course of an empire. Their love, intertwined with military power and spiritual authority, quietly endures as a testament to the enduring human capacity for devotion, resonating softly through the millennia. From the powerful romance of King Wu Ding and Fu Hao, let ritualistic chamber within the Shang Palace or a nearby temple in Anyang. The air might carry the faint scent of smoke from burning incense or wood. The sounds would be hushed. The precise, they would carefully scratch questions like, will the king take consort X? Or will the king's trip be favorable for his relationship with Lady Y? Or even, will consort Z give birth successfully? The answers, often brief and cryptic, were then inscribed alongside the questions. These short declarative statements provide a direct window into the personal relationships and concerns within the royal household. Deliberate actions of a diviner, the gentle scraping of a tool, and then the sharp, distinctive crack of heated bone as it split, revealing the answers from the ancestors. This sound, a moment of profound revelation, was at the heart of Shang divination. Youths now delve into a more intimate and enigmatic aspect of Shang dynasty life, the mystery of Shang love oracles. These humble yet profound fragments of inscribed bone and tortoiseshell offer a rare, direct glimpse into the personal concerns, anxieties, and perhaps even the hidden romantic intrigues of the Shang elite. They invite us to ponder how love and human relationships were understood and divined in this distant Bronze Age world. Imagine the atmosphere in a quiet. The core of Shang religious practice revolved around divination, particularly using oracle bones, ox scapulae or tortoise plastrons, or perhaps the quiet fascination of these oracle bones lies not just in their practical function, but in the rich variety of topics they cover. While many inscriptions concern matters of state, warfare, harvest, or royal health, a surprising number touch upon deeply personal issues, including those we might interpret as romantic intrigues. This raises a quiet, persistent question: were these specific divinations royal love notes, private requests concerning forbidden passions, or simply divinations about compatibility and prosperity and marital alliances? These bones were meticulously prepared, often polished smooth, and then questions were carefully inscribed upon them. A heated bronze rod would then be applied to specific points on the bone, causing it to crack. The diviner would then interpret the pattern of these cracks, along with the inscribed question and sometimes the answer or outcome, as messages from the royal ancestors or deities. The mystery. Think of the diviners, the highly skilled individuals who posed these questions to the ancestors. These love oracles suggest that even in a society governed by strict hierarchies and ritual, human emotions and relationships, including those that might be considered clandestine or problematic, were a significant concern. The fact that the king himself or his closest advisors sought ancestral guidance on such matters underscores their importance. Not just personally. They are not grand narratives, but the mundane, yet deeply personal, details of daily existence, transformed by time into invaluable insights, and social structures, prompting a gentle wonder about the personal lives intertwined with the grand narratives of kings and rituals. The subtle sounds of ancient bones, the quiet murmurs of divination, these are the gentle echoes of a quiet mystery, patiently waiting to be unraveled by the persistent sands of time. They spark a quiet curiosity about the individuals whose questions were etched into bone, whose quiet hopes and fears we can only piece together from the faint echoes of ancient cracks, but also for the stability of the royal line in the empire. It implies that Shang courtship and marital practices, even royal ones, were not always straightforward. They could involve complex negotiations, personal affections, and sometimes, perhaps, veiled conflicts that required divine intervention. The presence of these records also allows us to reflect on cultural practices around Shang Palace romance. Marriage alliances were often political, cementing power or forging alliances with other noble families. Yet, the oracle bones hint at underlying human desires, affections, and rivalries that transcended mere political arrangement. The quiet act of cracking a bone, seeking an ancestral blessing or warning about a personal connection, reveals a deep belief in the ancestors' influence over every aspect of life, even the most intimate. The very existence of these inscribed fragments, carefully preserved for millennia beneath the earth of Anyang, is a testament to the Shang people's profound reverence for divination and their meticulous record-keeping. This segment allows us to reflect on the hidden truths of ancient Shang relationships and social structures, prompting a gentle wonder about the personal lives intertwined with the grand narratives of kings and rituals. The subtle sounds of ancient bones, the quiet murmurs of divination, these are the gentle echoes of a quiet mystery, patiently waiting to be unraveled by the persistent sands of time. From the intimate and enigmatic world of Shang love oracles, let us now gently transition to another realm of Shang elite life, the sprawling, yet ordered world of a Shang noble's compound. This offers a striking contrast to the humble servant's life, and a captivating glimpse into the ceremonial grandeur, ancestral devotion, and active participation in warfare that define the Shang aristocracy. Imagine stepping through a sturdy, perhaps decorated, gateway into a large, walled compound, a self-contained world designed for prestige, ritual, and daily living. The air here would feel purposeful and perhaps solemn, often carrying the distinct scent of burning wood from hearths or, more significantly, from fires used in ancestral offerings. Imagine long, low tables or mats laid out for guests, laden with various dishes. The aroma of cooked meats, perhaps pork, dog, or cattle, would fill the air alongside steamed grains. The staple would be millet, prepared in various ways, but the most distinctive element would be the millet wine, served from elegant bronze vessels. This wine, often strong and aromatic, would be consumed during both convivial gatherings and solemn ancestral rites. While not on the colossal scale of the royal palace, it would still be impressive, reflecting the noble's wealth and status. Imagine the noble leading their household in solemn offerings to their ancestors, seeking blessings, guidance, and protection. The air would be thick with the scent of burning offerings, and the rhythmic chants of the noble or their family priests would create a hypnotic atmosphere, reinforcing the unbreakable link between the living and the spirit world. The rich, deep sound of bronze bells or drums, struck with careful precision, would punctuate these ceremonies, invoking the presence of the powerful departed. Walls might be adorned with simple patterns or, for the highest elite, perhaps with stylized animal motifs. Furnishings would include practical items crafted from wood, perhaps lacquered, alongside highly prized jade ornaments and imposing bronze tripods, symbols of power and ritual authority. The light, often filtered and softened, would gently illuminate chambers designed for both daily life and ceremonial functions. The soft murmur of voices, the occasional clink of bronze, and the distant, rhythmic beat of drums for ritual or practice would form a constant, low hum signifying the important affairs of the household. Unlike the constant physical labor of a servant, the noble's duties were primarily administrative, military, and spiritual. They managed their estates, oversaw their retainers, and critically participated deeply in ancestral rituals. Their power came from their lineage, their land, and their direct connection to the royal court, often solidified through their military prowess. The architecture of a Shang noble's compound would be substantial, typically built with rammed earth foundations and wooden structures, featuring courtyards and multiple buildings. The daily rhythm of a Shang noble was one of significant responsibility and profound ritual engagement. Feasts in a noble's compound were significant social and ritual events, reflecting the noble's status and their connection to the ruling elite. The sounds of such a feast would be a blend of convivial conversation and the deeper, more resonant tones of ritual. The ancestral rituals were paramount. Imagine the noble leading their household in solemn offerings to their ancestors, seeking blessings, guidance, and protection. The air would be thick with the scent of burning offerings, and the rhythmic chants of the noble or their family priests would create a hypnotic atmosphere, reinforcing the unbreakable link between the living and the spirit world. Shang society was frequently engaged in conflict, defending its borders or expanding its territory. Nobles were expected to lead their own retinues of warriors, participating in campaigns that could last for weeks or months. It highlights the complex layers of a Bronze Age civilization, where every aspect of life, from feasting to warfare, was imbued with ritual and a deep connection to the ancestral past. Their personal courage and strategic skill in battle were highly valued. Imagine them in their chariots, adorned with bronze fittings, leading their men into the fray, a stark contrast to the quiet, internal struggles of palace life. The rich, deep sound of bronze bells or drums, struck with careful precision, would punctuate these ceremonies, invoking the presence of the powerful departed. Their very existence was intertwined with the state's welfare and the ancestral order. Contrast this life of ceremonial grandeur and military duty with the humble existence of a palace servant. One commanded resources and participated in rituals that connected them directly to the divine order and the success of the state. The other served quietly in the background, a small cog in the same vast machinery. Both existed within the grand structure of Shang society, but their experiences were worlds apart. The nobles' role in warfare was also central to their identity and status. While their lives were marked by privilege and ceremonial splendor, they were also bound by strict duties and the constant expectation of loyalty to the Shang king. This glimpse into a Shang noble's compound offers a mesmerizing, yet calming, window into a life of privilege, profound spiritual engagement, and active participation in the military affairs of ancient China. From the ritualistic grandeur of a Shang noble's compound, let us now shift our focus to an aspect of Shang civilization that truly embodies its power, its artistry, and its profound spiritual connection, the masterpiece of Shang bronze working. These magnificent vessels, intricate in their design and monumental in their scale, represent not merely craftsmanship but a deep cultural and religious expression, inviting us to contemplate the quiet dedication and immense skill behind their creation. Imagine the atmosphere in a Shang bronze workshop near the capital of Anyang. This would not be a silent space, but one filled with the purposeful sounds of highly skilled artisans. The air would be thick with the earthy scent of clay, the metallic tang of molten copper and tin, and the faint, smoky aroma from the furnaces. The dominant sounds would be the rhythmic tapping of hammers as clay molds were prepared, the gentle scraping of tools shaping intricate designs, and the low, steady roar of kilns, heating the crucibles to immense temperatures. The Shang Dynasty is renowned for its unparalleled mastery of bronze casting, particularly the piece mold method. Think of the complex, multi-stage process involved. First, a detailed model of the vessel would be crafted from clay. Then, outer molds would be created by pressing clay against this model, carefully carving out intricate designs, often featuring stylized animal motifs like touty masks, dragons, or birds. Inner cores would also be made. These separate pieces, once hardened, would then be carefully assembled, leaving a precise cavity for the molten bronze. The creation of these vessels was a highly collaborative effort, requiring immense organization and specialized knowledge. Imagine dozens, perhaps hundreds, of artisans working in quiet coordination, miners extracting ores, refiners purifying the metals, designers sketching patterns, mold makers meticulously carving, and the casters themselves moving with precise, deliberate movements around the fiery furnaces. The heat from these furnaces would be intense, the air shimmering above the molten metal, and the moment of pouring the glowing bronze into the prepared molds would be one of quiet tension and intense focus. The scale of some of these bronze pieces is truly astonishing. Consider the unwinding, a massive rectangular tripod weighing over 875 kilograms, the largest piece of ancient bronze found in the world. Imagine the immense effort required to cast such a piece, the sheer volume of molten metal, the coordinated strength of many individuals to lift and pour the crucibles, and the precise timing required to ensure a perfect cast. The sound of such a colossal vessel being carefully lifted, or perhaps gently placed into a tomb, would have been a low, resonant thud, a testament to its immense weight. These bronze vessels were not merely decorative. They were primarily ritual implements, vital for ancestor worship and other ceremonies. Nobles and kings would use them to present offerings of food and wine to their ancestors, seeking their blessings, guidance, and protection. The intricate designs, often featuring fierce and mysterious animal imagery, were believed to connect the living with the spirit world, ensuring the continuity of the lineage and the prosperity of the state. The act of offering, of pouring millet wine into a beautifully crafted bronze chiyu, or placing food into a ding, was a solemn, quiet ritual imbued with deep spiritual meaning. The enduring legacy of Shang bronzeworking extends beyond its technical brilliance. These pieces are direct, tangible links to the spiritual life and social structures of this ancient civilization. They represent not only peak craftsmanship, but also the profound belief system that underpins Shang society. The subtle sounds of their creation, the quiet reverence surrounding their use, and their silent preservation for millennia allow us to feel a calming connection to the power and artistry of the distant Shang past. From the magnificent, resonant creations of Shang bronzeworking, let us now gently shift our focus to the more ephemeral, yet equally evocative, elements of daily life in the Shang capital of Enyang. We will tune our ears to the whispers of ancient Enyang, exploring the ordinary sounds and the significant silences that define the existence of its common inhabitants, offering a calming contrast to the grandeur and intrigue we've previously explored. Imagine a typical day unfolding in the common quarters of Enyang, beyond the royal palaces and noble compounds. The morning air, perhaps cool and crisp, would slowly fill with the first sounds of waking life. You might hear the distant, repetitive thud of a wooden pestle against a mortar as millet is pounded for the day's meals. This simple, rhythmic sound would be a constant, comforting backdrop to early morning preparations, a testament to the fundamental need for food. The general atmosphere would be one of quiet industry. You might hear the soft clatter of pottery as water is drawn from wells or food is prepared. The low, murmuring conversations of families, the gentle hum of activity in small workshops, perhaps the distant bleating of goats or the soft grunts of pigs. These would be the fabric of the city's waking soundtrack. Life for the common people was largely agrarian and artisanal, a cycle tied to the seasons and the demands of labor. Think of the materials that dominated their lives: wood, earth, and simple fibers. Their homes would be humble, often made of rammed earth with thatched roofs. The sounds within these homes would be quiet and intimate: the rustle of straw sleeping mats, the soft crackle of a small fire for cooking, the gentle creak of a wooden stool. There would be a pervading sense of groundedness, a direct connection to the natural world and its rhythms. During the daytime, as the sun climbed higher, the sounds might shift. You might hear the distant shouts of vendors in a market area, their voices rising and falling in a gentle cadence as they called out their wares. The soft shuffle of many feet on dirt paths, the occasional whir of a potter's wheel, or the rhythmic thwack of a weaver's loom. These subtle mechanical sounds would indicate the various crafts and trades supporting the city. However, just as significant as the sounds were the silences. There would be profound silences in the fields outside the city walls, broken only by the wind through tall grasses or the distant call of a bird. Within the city itself, there would be moments of quiet reverence, particularly during religious or ceremonial occasions. When a noble or the king performed an important ancestral ritual, the common populace might fall into a collective hush, a shared moment of solemnity. The only sounds then would be the deep, slow beat of ritual drums, or the high sustained notes of bronze bells carrying across the air as they invoked the spirits. The nights in ancient Enyang would have been profoundly dark and often very quiet. Without widespread artificial light, the city would settle into a deep stillness after sunset. The distant howl of a wild dog, the gentle chirping of crickets, or the soft rustle of leaves would be the only sounds breaking the profound silence. This natural quietude would have fostered a deep connection to the stars and the moon, and to the subtle rhythms of the earth. This segment allows us to reflect on the quiet, often unrecorded, lives of the majority of Shang people. Their existence, though lacking the grandeur of palaces or the drama of royal intrigues, was rich in its own way, defined by the simple, repetitive sounds of daily labor, the comfort of family, and the profound, natural silences of their world. These quiet echoes from ancient Enyang drift softly, helping us to imagine a world far removed from our own, yet connected by the enduring patterns of human life. What if the air you breathed became a silent killer, and every shadow in your vibrant city hid a fresh corpse? We calmly explore the horrifying reality of being a plague survivor in 6th century Byzantine Constantinople. Imagine yourself, if you will, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to the 6th century. The setting is the vast ancient city of Constantinople, once a beacon of civilization, now shrouded in a pervasive, quiet dread. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a survivor of the plague of Justinian, navigating a world irrevocably altered by an unseen, relentless enemy. Your existence is defined by constant vigilance, the acute awareness of pervasive suffering, and the profound daily struggle for quiet survival. The first sensation that might envelop you is the heavy, often still air. Your lungs burn from smoky air, a pervasive reminder of constant fires. These might be the fires used to incinerate infected clothing, or the grim, relentless burning of makeshift pyres, attempting to dispose of the ever-increasing numbers of the dead. The acrid scent of wood smoke, mingled with something more unsettling, the subtle, sweet yet cloying odor of decay, would cling to the very fabric of the city. Each breath would be a conscious act, a quiet negotiation with the omnipresent threat in the air. As you move through the once bustling streets, the quiet horror would become intensely visual. You would be constantly avoiding infected corpses, lying still and silent where they had fallen. Imagine stepping carefully around bundles of cloth, knowing what lay beneath them, or seeing the pale, still faces of the recently departed, their presence a stark, motionless tableau of widespread suffering. The visual impact would be profound, a constant, silent reminder of the plague's invisible reach. Meals, when they come, are dictated by scarcity and fear. Your sustenance might consist of simple, dry, stale bread, perhaps chewed slowly, carefully, to prolong its meager nourishment. The taste would be bland, providing just enough to quiet the gnawing emptiness within. There would be little of the vibrant, varied food of normal times. Only the quiet understanding that every crumb was precious, obtained with difficulty. As night falls, or when safety demands, you would seek refuge. Your rest is found in a cramped tenement, a small, shared space where the air is stale and heavy with the breath of others. There's little comfort, and the act of sleep itself is often disturbed. The reason for this pervasive unease: you are fearing death. Every cough from a neighbor, every hushed conversation about a new fever, every moment of quiet discomfort in your own body sends a quiet jolt of dread through your being. Your dreams, if they come, might be disturbed by a subtle, pervasive sense of fragility. But beneath the routines of survival and the constant physical demands, there are deeper, more chilling anxieties. You are acutely aware of the sensory horror of rotting bodies. Though not seen explicitly, the very air, the very ground beneath your feet would subtly communicate their pervasive presence. The sounds of your daily life would be punctuated by the heart-wrenching wail of mourners, a haunting, drawn-out lament that would echo through the narrow streets, a constant reminder of loss. This quiet, sorrowful sound would become a pervasive soundtrack to the plague years. And then there is the insidious, ever-present dread of contagion. Every touch, every shared space, every casual breath from another person becomes a potential vector for the invisible enemy. The quiet itch on your skin, the subtle ache in your limbs, each sensation becomes magnified, interpreted through the lens of profound fear. The sounds of your own body, your own breath, might become objects of intense, silent scrutiny. To exist in such a state, to navigate daily life under constant threat and the pervasive shadow of unseen disease, required immense, quiet courage. It demanded unwavering caution, a desperate search for any means of survival, and a deep, almost primal, drive to simply continue to exist amidst overwhelming loss. The rhythm of your life would be a constant, subtle negotiation of profound vulnerability, quiet grief, and the persistent desire to simply awaken to another strange dawn. From the immediate, harrowing experience of a plague survivor in Constantinople, let us now gently broaden our perspective to encompass the figure who presided over this profound crisis. Emperor Justinian I. His reign, from 527 to 565 CE, marked a pivotal era for the Byzantine Empire, a time of immense ambition and profound challenge. This segment invites you to contemplate the quiet struggle of an emperor who sought to restore a vast empire, even as an invisible enemy ravaged his lands. Imagine Justinian I, a figure of immense will and tireless dedication, seated in the grand halls of his palace. The air in these imperial chambers would carry the cool scent of polished marble and the faint aroma of rare spices, a stark contrast to the burdened air of the city's streets. The sounds would be measured, the soft rustle of expensive silks, the quiet murmurs of advisors, and the scratching of quills on parchment as decrees were drafted. Justinian's reign was characterized by an almost boundless ambition. He dreamt of restoring the former glory of the Roman Empire, of reuniting its vast territories under Byzantine rule. His military campaigns stretched across North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain, recovering lands that had long been lost. Imagine the strategic intensity, the quiet confidence with which he would have directed these vast military undertakings, believing in a destiny of imperial renewal. However, in the mid-6th century, this ambitious vision was profoundly threatened by the arrival of the plague of Justinian. This devastating pandemic swept through his empire, impacting nearly every corner of his realm, including the imperial capital itself. Imagine the emperor, a man accustomed to wielding immense power, now confronted by an enemy that could not be conquered by armies or outmaneuvered by strategy. The sounds of imperial court, usually vibrant with activity, would have been hushed, burdened by the grim news that arrived daily from across the empire. In response to this unprecedented crisis, Justinian and his administration attempted various public health measures. While their understanding of disease transmission was limited, they did implement what they could. Imagine the quiet, desperate efforts, attempts to control the movement of people and goods, perhaps imposing rudimentary quarantines on ships arriving in the Golden Horn. The sounds would be the low, urgent voices of officials discussing logistics, the quiet clatter of carts carrying away the dead, and the solemn tolling of church bells, a constant, mournful backdrop. These were efforts born of necessity, striving to manage the unmanageable. The plague's devastation had a catastrophic impact, leading to a profound economic collapse. Trade, the lifeblood of Constantinople and the empire, slowed dramatically. Agricultural production suffered as farmers succumbed to the disease. The sounds of bustling markets would have quieted, the vibrant chatter of merchants replaced by a pervasive stillness. The flow of tax revenues, vital for funding Justinian's grand projects and military campaigns, dwindled significantly. This economic unraveling was a quiet, insidious threat to the very foundations of his reign. Despite this overwhelming crisis, Justinian pressed forward with his other ambitious reforms. He continued his efforts to codify Roman law, a monumental undertaking that resulted in the Corpus Juris Civilis, a legal framework that would influence jurisprudence for centuries. Imagine the vast scriptoria filled with scribes working in quiet dedication, their quills scratching softly across parchment, preserving and organizing centuries of legal wisdom. He also oversaw a vast building program, most notably the construction of the magnificent Hagia Sophia, a symbol of imperial and spiritual power. The sounds of its construction would have been a quiet, persistent symphony of chiseling stone, hammering wood, and the murmuring of countless laborers, a testament to an emperor's unwavering vision even amidst despair. The reign of Justinian I is a testament to both immense ambition and profound resilience. He faced an existential threat that no emperor had ever encountered, yet he continued to pursue his grand vision for the empire, adapting to the crisis even as it reshaped his world. The soft murmur of imperial decrees, the distant, muffled sounds of a city under siege by disease, and the quiet, persistent rhythm of an emperor's unwavering will. These are the gentle echoes of a truly fascinating chapter in Byzantine history, resonating softly, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation. From the grand, yet often overwhelmed, imperial responses to the plague of Justinian, let us now gently descend to a more personal and deeply human level, the mystery of plague amulets. Found amidst the silent ruins of Constantinople, these small, often humble, objects whisper tales of profound fear and desperate hope, serving as tangible links to the quiet anxieties and spiritual practices of the survivors. They invite us to explore the delicate balance between religious faith and popular superstition in the face of an invisible, relentless enemy. Imagine sifting through the archaeological layers of a long-lost home or a forgotten burial site in ancient Constantinople. Among the broken pottery and scattered tools, your fingers might gently touch a small, unusual object, a plague amulet. These would vary in material and design. Some might be small pieces of carved bone or wood, worn smooth by constant handling. Others could be tiny, flattened metal discs, perhaps copper or lead, intricately etched with symbols or short inscriptions. The feeling of such an artifact, cool and solid in your hand, can quietly connect you to the person who once wore it, seeking protection. The scent of these recovered objects would be faint, the dry, earthy smell of the soil from which they were exhumed, perhaps with a subtle metallic tang. The sounds of their discovery would be hushed, the gentle scrape of an archaeologist's brush, the quiet murmur of observation, the soft rustle of a newly documented find. This leads to the central enigma of these amulets. Were they primarily religious or superstitious? In Byzantine society, the lines between fervent Christian faith and deeply ingrained folk beliefs were often beautifully, sometimes ambiguously blurred. Many amulets bear Christian symbols, a cross, the image of a saint, or a short invocation of divine protection. Imagine a devout Christian kneeling in quiet prayer, yet also wearing an amulet, feeling a dual layer of comfort and spiritual shield against the terrifying disease. Other amulets, however, seem to draw from older, more traditional practices. They might feature abstract designs, eyes, or cryptic words that suggest a belief in sympathetic magic or the power of specific incantations. Imagine the quiet desperation that might drive someone witnessing widespread death to seek any possible means of defense, blurring the distinction between what was considered strictly pious and what was simply hopeful. The presence of these amulets provides invaluable insights into the cultural practices around Byzantine disease. They confirm the pervasive fear that gripped the populace and illustrate the varied coping mechanisms employed in the face of an existential threat. People prayed, they sought divine intervention, but they also engaged in practical measures, even if those measures were rooted in belief systems that might seem irrational to a modern observer. These were quiet, personal acts of defiance against an overwhelming force. The amulets speak to the deeply personal nature of survival during the plague. While emperors issued decrees and priests offered prayers, the individual sought solace and protection in tangible objects. Imagine the quiet, almost subconscious act of touching an amulet, feeling its smooth surface, drawing a quiet sense of reassurance from its presence against the skin. This small, repetitive action would have been a silent ritual of hope in a world consumed by dread. This segment allows us to reflect on the universal human impulse to seek meaning and protection in the face of incomprehensible suffering. It highlights the complex interplay between faith, fear, and cultural belief. The gentle clink of a small metal amulet, the soft whisper of an ancient prayer, and the enduring questions about the boundaries of belief. These are the calming echoes of a past where hope was clung to, in every quiet way imaginable, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation. From the quiet anxieties and desperate measures of a plague survivor and the humble, hopeful touch of an amulet, let us now gently ascend to a world of contrasting opulence. A Byzantine noble's palace in Constantinople during the same tumultuous era. This segment invites you to step into a realm of refined existence, highlighting the stark difference in daily life between the elite and the struggling populace, even as the shadow of the plague subtly touched all. Imagine crossing the threshold into a noble's marble palace. The air would immediately feel cooler, perhaps carrying the faint clean scent of polished stone and exotic wood, subtly infused with a delicate aroma of fragrant oils or incense. Your eyes would be met with dazzling displays of artistry, walls adorned with shimmering golden mosaics, depicting religious scenes or intricate geometric patterns, catching the light in 1,000 tiny glints. Heavy, richly woven silk drapes in deep hues of purple, crimson, and gold might hang from archways, softly rustling with any passing breeze, muffling the sounds of the bustling city outside. The very ground beneath your feet would be smooth, cold marble, perhaps inlaid with intricate patterns. The sounds within such a palace would be muted and refined, the soft swish of silk garments as someone moved, the gentle murmur of polite conversation, and the distant, almost imperceptible chime of a small decorative bell. Meals in a noble's palace were far removed from the meager portions of stale bread. Imagine the rich, complex aromas of a Byzantine feast, the savory scent of perfectly cooked fish, perhaps brought fresh from the Bosporus, delicately seasoned with precious spices. Bowls of succulent fruits, roasted meats, and various breads would fill a grand table, and the rich, sweet fragrance of wine, served from elegant pitchers into finely crafted goblets, would permeate the air. The sounds would be soft, the gentle clinking of silverware, the clatter of ceramic plates, and the low, contented hum of conversation, punctuated by quiet laughter. Beyond the sumptuous feasts, the noble's palace was often a hub of intellectual and political activity. Imagine the quiet intensity of religious councils, where learned theologians and high-ranking clerics would gather in a richly appointed chamber. The sounds would be the soft rustle of their robes, the gentle clearing of throats, and the measured, scholarly voices debating complex theological points or imperial doctrines. These discussions, though seemingly abstract, held immense power and could shape the very fabric of Byzantine society. The noble's role in imperial politics was a constant, intricate dance of influence and strategy. These individuals were often high-ranking officials, military commanders, or wealthy landowners whose fortunes and positions were tied directly to the emperor's favor. Imagine them in hushed conversations in secluded courtyards, or at formal meetings, subtly gauging alliances, discussing military campaigns, or advising on matters of state. Their voices, though calm and measured, carried significant weight, impacting the lives of countless citizens. The subtle political maneuvering, the quiet exchange of information, would be the true currency of their daily existence. This segment allows us to reflect on the nature of privilege and power during a time of great crisis. Even within the gilded confines of a noble's palace, the distant echoes of the plague, though perhaps muted, would still resonate. Servants might fall ill, trade disruptions could impact supply lines, and the fear, though less immediate, would subtly linger. Yet, the opulence and strategic pursuits continued, a testament to the resilience and perhaps detachment of the elite. The gentle swish of silk drapes, the soft murmur of learned debate, and the quiet clinking of wine gobel. These are the calming echoes of a refined, powerful world that existed in profound contrast to the widespread hardship, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the varied experiences within a single, challenging historical period. From the contrasting worlds of immediate survival and opulent palace life, let us now gently shift our contemplation to the broader, more pervasive consequences of the plague of Justinian. The silent, invisible enemy, once it had swept through the Byzantine Empire, left behind not just individual suffering, but profound, long-term impacts that subtly reshaped the very foundations of society and even influenced the course of early medieval history. This segment invites you to ponder the quiet, slow unraveling of a once vibrant world and the enduring resilience required for its eventual, gradual recovery. Imagine the empire in the aftermath of the plague's initial devastating waves. The sounds that once filled bustling cities and productive farmlands would be subtly, yet profoundly, diminished. A pervasive quiet would settle over vast regions, replacing the familiar sounds of human activity. The most immediate and profound consequence was the massive population decline. Historians quietly estimate that in some areas, a significant portion of the population, perhaps a third or more, simply vanished. The sight of empty homes, uncultivated fields, and deserted streets would have been a silent, haunting testament to this immense loss. This demographic collapse had a cascading impact on labor. Imagine the fields, once teeming with farmers, now lying fallow for lack of hands to tend them. The workshops and construction sites, previously vibrant with the sounds of craftsmanship, would have quieted considerably. This scarcity of labor had far-reaching effects on agriculture, leading to food shortages, and fundamentally weakened the empire's ability to sustain its vast population and ambitious projects. The sounds of fewer people working, a subtle hush over the land, would be a stark indicator of the plague's lingering grip. The plague also touched the very heart of the empire's power, its military strength. An empire at war on multiple fronts required a constant supply of soldiers. The significant loss of manpower meant fewer recruits, smaller armies, and a diminished capacity to defend the vast frontiers. Imagine the quiet concern in military councils, the hushed discussions about dwindling numbers, and the challenging task of maintaining a strong defense with a weakened populace. This subtle, pervasive weakening made the empire more vulnerable to external pressures in the decades and centuries that followed. There were also quiet shifts in urban life. While Constantinople eventually recovered some of its former vibrancy, the memory of the plague's devastation would linger. Patterns of trade might have quietly rerouted. Certain industries might have struggled to regain their footing, and the very demographics of the city would have shifted. The sounds of a slowly recovering city, a gradual return of merchants' calls, the quiet rebuilding of abandoned structures would be the subtle symphony of resilience. In a broader sense, the plague of Justinian might have subtly, yet profoundly, weakened the Byzantine Empire, contributing to challenges it would face in the centuries to come. While not a singular cause for decline, it was a pervasive, underlying factor that drained resources, reduced manpower, and created a lingering vulnerability. The vast ambitions of emperors like Justinian, so grand in scope, were forced to confront the harsh, quiet reality of a world fundamentally altered by disease. Yet, amidst this long-term impact, there was also a profound, quiet resilience required for recovery over centuries. Societies adapted. New generations slowly filled the voids. Agricultural practices quietly shifted. The long, slow process of healing and rebuilding, often unnoticed in the grand sweep of history, was a testament to the human spirit's enduring capacity to endure and overcome. This segment allows us to reflect on the lasting, often understated, ways that natural disasters can shape the course of civilizations. The distant, fading echoes of a diminished population, the subtle shifts in the rhythm of daily life, and the quiet, persistent struggle for recovery. These are the calming whispers of a profound historical turning point, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent legacy of a devastating plague. From the profound demographic shifts and economic disruptions caused by the plague, let us now gently turn our contemplation to the spiritual realm, the enduring and evolving role of the Byzantine Church, and the shifting beliefs of the people in the face of overwhelming despair. For many in Constantinople and across the empire, the Church provided not only a source of solace, but also a framework for understanding and confronting the inexplicable horror that had descended upon their world. This segment invites you to ponder the quiet comfort found in ritual and the profound impact of suffering on the human spirit's search for divine meaning. Imagine stepping into a Byzantine church during the plague years. The air, though perhaps still carrying the faint, acrid scent of distant pyres, would also be heavy with the comforting aroma of incense, its smoky tendrils curling upwards towards the vaulted ceilings adorned with sacred images. The sounds within would be solemn and pervasive, the low, resonant chanting of hymns echoing softly in the vast space, the quiet murmuring of prayers, and perhaps the soft, rhythmic toll of a distant church bell, a constant, mournful reminder of lives lost. In a world where medical understanding was limited, the church became the primary institution offering explanations, comfort, and crucially, a path to reconciliation with the divine. Priests would have preached sermons on divine judgment or the mysteries of God's will, attempting to provide spiritual context for the unimaginable suffering. Imagine the quiet, attentive faces of congregants, seeking meaning and hope in a seemingly senseless reality. The plague also led to the rise of new devotional practices. People would have turned with even greater fervor to their saints, perceived as powerful intercessors with God. Images of saints or icons would have become even more precious, their painted eyes offering a quiet, constant visual comfort. Imagine touching a cool, polished icon, feeling its smooth surface, finding a quiet sense of spiritual connection and hope for protection. Solemn rituals for the dying and the dead became tragically common. Priests would administer the last rites, offering spiritual solace in the face of inevitable physical decline. The sounds of these quiet ceremonies, the murmured prayers, the hushed blessings, would have been a pervasive backdrop to the profound sorrow of the time. The communal aspect of faith became profoundly important. In a world where families were torn apart by disease and social structures were strained, the church community often provided a vital anchor. Imagine people gathering in quiet desperation, finding strength and solidarity in shared prayer, their collective voices rising softly in appeals for mercy. While faith provided an enduring framework, the sheer scale of the devastation would have prompted profound spiritual introspection and quiet, personal struggles with belief. For many, however, the church remained an unwavering source of guidance and comfort, its ancient rituals and promises of salvation offering a quiet, steadying presence amidst overwhelming chaos. This segment allows us to reflect on the profound human need for spiritual solace and meaning when faced with incomprehensible tragedy. It highlights how faith and religious institutions can serve as vital anchors in turbulent times, offering not just explanation, but also community, ritual, and a quiet sense of hope for an afterlife. The solemn echo of a hymn, the subtle flicker of a candle's flame, and the enduring human search for divine intervention, these are the calming whispers of a deeply spiritual past, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent power of belief in a world transformed by suffering. We have witnessed the profound contrast that define this era, its widespread suffering and its moments of individual resilience, its imperial ambition and its humbling vulnerability, its tangible horrors and its profound search for spiritual meaning. It is a world both bleak and deeply human, a testament to the intricate and often contradictory nature of human existence when faced with overwhelming adversity.